Hello, nice to see you again. Today's project is very special for me because it is my first collaboration with other doll artists from Instagram. For this project, everyone had to create a Star Trek Borg inspired character using any doll, toy or spare parts they have. In the Star Trek universe, the Borg is a hive mind collective that's searching for perfection through collecting alien technologies and species and turning them into drones with all sorts of cybernetic modifications. So this collab was providing an unlimited space for creativity. All of the artists will be linked in the description down below, so please check their works if you are interested. And you should be, because everyone's creation is so unique and interesting. But now let's see what I've prepared for you today. For my Borg, I am going to use this body from Monster High Create Your Monster set that has a skeleton inside. I thought it would be a perfect base for creating something like the Borg Queen from the Star Trek First Contact. In order to make her neck and shoulders detachable, I need to cut these parts of her body plates. This plastic is quite hard to cut and it also cracks if you put more pressure on it. So I came up with an idea to heat up the knife with a candle and melt the plastic instead. Like this I get a very smooth cut without damaging the parts. Next I'm going to harvest her spine and remove the rest of it from the hip bone, because this space will be needed for the adjusted spine to fit in. And I should do this now in the beginning, because when I cover the hip bone with her torso I won't have access to it anymore. When I'm done manipulating her insides, I glue the torso parts to them. And I check how the parts fit. Because of the sharp curves the doll body has, it's hard to fit in the skeleton, but it's easily adjustable with a Dremel. In the movie her upper body is held in place with hooks, and I'd like to make a similar mechanism but with snap buttons. Metal snaps might be pretty bulky for the scale, so I've decided to insert the thickest half inside the body and not just glue them on the surface. First I sketch the future openings on her chest and back, drill a few pilot holes and then remove the material bit by bit until I get the openings big enough for the buttons. There was some free space between her spine and body, so I had to place some epoxy sculpt under the buttons to make them sit flush with the body. After I'm done with technical part, I can start working on the details like sculpting all of the cables and implants she has under her skin. I have a thing for collarbones, so these are a must-have. Then I paint the whole piece white to have an even color. Paint the bones. And blush the skin with pastels. There will be more to this part, but first I need to make her head. For this project I've chosen Operetta's head and shrunk it in acetone as I did for Malenia. I left it in pure acetone for 2 days, but apparently I did it wrong. Catmillion Studio texted me and said that if I use pure acetone, I need to leave the head to shrink for 2-3 hours only, and for 48 hours if I use acetone solution, which is 1 part of acetone and 9 parts of water. But I did this head before I received her message, so it got deformed again. However, I think it's not that big of a problem as I'm going to resculpt her head anyway. I chose Operetta as a head donor because there is not so many projects where I could use her head because of the scar, which I can cover only if I shrink the head. But after sending her head, I realized that she actually has a perfect sculpt for an evil alien queen, mostly because of her sharp cheekbones and deep eyes. I think these features make her look noble and dangerous. When I'm happy with the general shape, I sketch the future cables on her head and drill holes for the wire armature. I hold the Dremel at a sharp angle to be able to place the wires with the right curve. I placed the wires a bit different than the original Borg Queen has because I thought that connecting all of the wires in one spot would make it the weak point of the drone, so I placed them parallel instead. To be honest, I don't know exactly if these things are wires or tentacles, or maybe wires inside of tentacles, because they seem to be covered with skin. In order to figure this out, I did a little research on the Borg Queen's origin, and I figured that she belongs to the species 125, which is a humanoid race that was completely assimilated by the Borg, so we won't be able to find out what they looked like before they were assimilated. According to the lore, females of this species have the ability to sift through thousands of thoughts, so Borg chose her to become their queen to bring order to chaos. However, the hive mind can function fine without the queen as well, and she is more like an SSD upgrade or something. I remember there was a Phineas and Ferb episode where people split into two groups, Team Fantasy and Team Science Fiction, and the brothers even got into a fight because they couldn't agree on this, but in the end they agreed that both are cool. I brought this up because I wonder which team are you, fantasy or science fiction? Or maybe both. When I was younger, I was fully into fantasy and I developed an interest for science fiction somewhere in my 20s. So I would say now I am both teams. A fantasy world is something like a dream, a place where I would like to live with magic, beautiful nature and fancy outfits, but it's only a dream. Science fiction, on the other hand, is a place where I wouldn't like to live because it feels more dangerous and scary, and yet these scenarios are more likely to happen at some point in the future. I can't wait to read your thoughts in the comments. I think it will be a really interesting discussion. But before you write something, remember,
he's not lost, he's just enjoying another genre.
So I replaced the cable salad, the original Borg Queen head, with parallel cables, but now the back of her head feels a bit empty, so I've decided to glue some beads to the back as if they are some kind of energy cells, like the one you use for power armor in Fallout. Now I can paint everything with acrylic paint. And then blush her with pastels to make the gradient smoother. Spray everything with MSC and start the face up. Her face features are so pronounced that I don't really need to blush her that much. The hardest part was this gradient from white to dark grey, mostly because of the cables, but after this step everything else is easy. The face up is almost done. I place the head on her upper body and adjust the blush on her neck to make it match the head. And from this point, I'll work with them together as one piece. Usually I dry brush metal parts with silver or other metallic color in the end to get that realistic oxidized metal effect. But I think Borg would use quality metal for their insides and it should be shiny all over. So I decided to wash her bones with silver instead. And this is the reason why I painted them with such a high contrast as well. So after applying the silver paint, which is slightly translucent, I'd still have the effect of extra dimension. And then I covered it with glossy varnish as well, just to protect the paint from scratching when I attach this piece to her body. I also add some gloss to her eyes to make them more mysterious. Even though they are just black, this watercolor effect with gloss on top looks amazing, I think. It's like when you gaze into the abyss and the abyss stares back at you. That was it with her upper body, and now she looks like a creepy fetus. What could be more charming than a creepy fetus? I guess the humanoid body will make her look a bit more human. This time there won't be any sewing as her body is completely robotic. I'm going to sculpt all of the details directly on her body. And the fact that all of the joints on Create Your Monster dolls are detachable comes in handy now. I can work on every piece separately and paint each piece properly, so there won't be any orange color shining through. I also paint her body from the inside because I want this part to look nice when the upper body doesn't want to use legs and just flying somewhere around the Borg cube. I've been thinking for a while what to do with her arms, how to make them more interesting. And then I found these bracelets from Frankie in my stock box, and I think they would fit perfectly to our queen, just with some slight adjustments like black wash for some extra dimension and rhinestones just like the ones I used on her head. I used 2 sizes of gems to fill up all of the sockets. And here's what I've got! Now all of the limbs are done and it might look like the doll is ready, but that's not the case. The last thing that's left is to attach the other halves of the snap buttons to the body. This I'm going to add some laser elements to her lower body that will overlap the buttons on her upper body, like some sort of belts. They also add some nice accent to her breast, if you ask me. And now the doll is finally ready. If you like my videos, support them with your likes and comments. It really makes a big difference here on YouTube, especially for such small YouTubers as myself. Every like matters. And if you'd like to support me further, now you can also buy me a coffee by the link I placed in the description box. Borg. I enjoyed your company very much and I hope to see you again very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.